Mac Voices is supported by Fight Camp. Look good and feel good with at-home connected boxing. Try it free for 30 days at joinfightcamp.com/voices. Mac Voices is supported by LinkedIn Jobs. Find the right person for your business today with LinkedIn Jobs. Pay what you want and get $50 off your first job post at linkedin.com/macvoices. Welcome to Mac Voices. Mac Voices Live, actually. We are back up and running this week. We had a little technical problem last week, but those shows are in the feeds or will be in the feeds by the time you see this in the feed, but this one is live. I'm Chuck Joyner. This is the Talk of the Mac community. Folks, it's going to be a fun night because we have two great guests joining us. First up, our featured guest, Mr. Mark Fuccio, is here. Mark, looks like you are having some crisis situations based on your background.
Well, here in California on the coast, there's been a lot of fire that's been going on for several weeks. It's about 50% contained, and it's in Big Sur, which is an area I guess now known to almost all Mac users. And it's burning, and as are other parts of the state. So I figured, what an appropriate background for a discussion. And we have a link there so people can, put that link in and they can track it if they want to see more about the fire and how it evolves. Going to that link, you get a very detailed map of the areas. So that's what's on a lot of minds tonight. So back to you.
Well, we hope all our friends in California are safe. Or if you're not safe or you're in your harm's way, please pay attention. Go to that link, track it, and get out of harm's way. And it's just a coincidence that all of us are wearing red. We didn't plan that. That's just going to happen. But also joining us is Mr. Mike LaPlante. Mike, it's great to see you. Thanks for coming.
Great to be here, Chuck. I just thought I'd, pop in and listen to some intellectual conversation and maybe give my 2 cents if it is all worthy.
Great. Well, your 2 cents is always welcome, anytime.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that came out kind of strange.
I'll add a zero or two. I'll take a little higher denomination.
Yeah, the sentiment was there. Just the communication was not very good. Well, I guess the first thing, completely unplanned, is that Apple has announced that next Tuesday, by this time next week, we will have an Apple event of some kind. And so, we can toss out our speculations or whatever, but at the end of the day, Apple's going to come out with something. We don't know exactly what it'll be, phone, iPad, whatever. Mark, do you have any specific thoughts about what it might be this time?
I really have no idea. It's September. September normally seems to be when Apple introduces iPhones. So that might be a good bet. But we're into the start of the holiday season, and I don't know with COVID and everybody going online if there's much of a back to school season, but maybe we're in the middle of that too. So that might speak to updated iPads or even maybe Apple Silicon ARM-based Macs. So there's lots of stuff to hope for, and we will see in a week from now. And until then, I call on anyone who says that they know what's going to be coming out.
Mike, maybe I'll ask you instead of what do you think, what do you want?
I'm looking for a new Mac, and I think I'm actually the Mac that I want is actually available to me right now. I'm looking for a big iMac, of course, and I don't think it's a good idea to wait for the Mac chip iMac. That'll probably be down the road. That'll be some iteration, but maybe by the time they're making iMacs with their own chips, they'll have a lot of the bugs worked out by then. Because I have to imagine that there's going to be some hiccups with their chips and in their devices that, as far as developers smoothly transitioning, I don't know if I can see that happening. It'll be good because it's Apple, and they tend to have their act together, as it were. But I just don't think it's a good idea to be first generation Apple Silicon in my next computer.
I think this is going to be really interesting when we make that transition, because the Silicon machines will have been in the hands of developers, and they have been so far. And while there's supposed to be an NDA in place, some people have not been really talking, or they've been talking a lot more than they probably should be. But the one thing I haven't heard is, oh my God, this is horrible. It's crashy. It's, it's this, it's that. So I'm hoping that is sort of a bellwether that what the first one, whichever one it happens to be, is a good, solid, stable machine, and will, be the indicator that the transition will be as seamless as Apple would like it to be.
I know
I just think there's a risk involved. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I know a Mac developer, and he has the little sort of Mac Mini based, ARM development platform, and according to him, it's very fast. So, he's done some benchmarks against, I think, a MacBook Pro. I'm not sure. I don't think it's the 16-inch this year. I think it's last year's model. And he was saying that on some apps, it looks like it's between 4 and 5 times faster. So
Wow.
it could be quite a screamer. And other than that, he had no real complaints about the quality of the software and things, which is unusual, because he has the golden thumb that he finds bugs and problems. So one random data point, make of it what you will.
Okay, so let's see. We have, just as a quick rundown for the things that we think are coming, or for whatever reason, whether it's rumor or just that time of year. We have Apple Watch 6. We have Big Sur. We have iOS 14. We have an ARM-based Apple Silicon Mac. What else? Oh, an iPad Air, or an iPad of some designation has been rumored. Anything else that I think?
An iPhone?
Oh yeah, okay. Okay, yeah. It's this 4-day week thing is really throwing me off. And
I was surprised when Mark said, "I have no idea." I'm like, well, obviously there's going to be a phone. It's September and Apple's out an event. That's their phone event, is it not?
It normally is, but Apple has been throwing a lot of curves recently, so we'll wait and see.
Yeah,
I do expect a phone, but
of course,
but they could do something crazy and introduce a line of Apple Silicon based Macs. So don't know. There's
a line of them. Wow.
That's a big
I don't know about a line. I think they'll come out with one if they come out with one, but I honestly think it's still too early. What do you think, Chuck?
I'm going to answer that with a comment, and I'm sorry. I'll apologize to someone, because I was skimming through tweets and posts on Facebook today, and they made an interesting point that this is an Apple event. This is the September Apple event. But without journalists and all having to make the trek to Cupertino or to the spaceship or wherever, that there's no reason that they couldn't have multiple Apple events spread out over the next few weeks. So, we might see the iPhone next week. We could see then something else, a few weeks later, and something else a few weeks later, and still be in a pretty good position for, the holiday shopping, whatever that's going to look like this year. So I'm wondering if they really feel the need to pack it all into one, or whether they could spread it out, get a little more press, build up a little more anticipation, and continue to have the press buzzing about rumors that weren't addressed in Apple Event A, but might be in B and or C.
I think probably the determining factor might be where they are in manufacturing and availability. So if everything's ready to go, launch it. If not, if things need another a month or 6 or 8 or 10 weeks, then that would argue in announcing them later on in the year.
But do you think that the availability at this point really means anything, as opposed to, instead of saying, yeah, you can order it next Friday, as opposed to, okay, you may have to wait till mid-October to place your order. This is when it's going to be released, and then the next one will be in November. I mean, do you blow it all in one event, or do you space it out?
I think that, it's saying that, okay, it's we're announcing it on when is the 15th? Is that the date of the show, the event? If they announce it on the 15th and they say you can order on pick a date, first day of fall, and it's available, Columbus Day, October 12th. I think that's fine. More than a month, for existing products. I don't think that's wise. I think that they'll probably constrict their sales, as well as there's really no reason there's no reason to really pre-announce stuff that's that far in the future. And remembering the Apple the wireless charging for the phone, I think maybe that has burned their fingers a little bit, and they might be wary of pre-announcing products way ahead of their known ability to deliver.
Yeah, it's a good point. I guess I get torn. Part of me says that if I know something I really want is coming, then I will wait. But you make a great point, and I don't know, Mike, how you feel about it. But then does that mean that I don't buy the iMac that you're looking at right now, or when you need it, and just knowing that, okay, if I can hold out for a month and a half, 2 months, whatever, that I'll be getting the next latest and greatest if I wanted it?
I don't think that there'll be an iMac as we know it with Apple Silicon in it for a little bit. I just don't see that happening. Development-wise, they just announced it in the summertime. I don't think it's just an easy thing for them to transition and manufacture and test in that amount of time, especially for something that I don't know. The iMac is probably the one that that's the desktop they sell the most of, as opposed to the Pros or the Minis.
Yeah, good point.
But I honestly don't think there's going to be more than one event. It's going to be one event. I think if you spread it out, it would just dilute one of them. So it's all in one. It's an Apple thing. That's what they do. They try to, This is the big show, and get ready because you're going to be Christmas shopping online for your new Apple product.
That's right, and we have multiple of them. They could, they could get people ready to, buy your to buy your iPads now for back to school, and then come Thanksgiving, when people are tired of iMac, buy new ARM-based MacBook, and get, don't forget you need a new phone in there, and at Christmas time you give a watch to your relatives. So there's many ways to slice and dice this.
Mark was selling things right and left. I like it. But you sort of threw the Apple Watch in there at the end, Mark. Anybody excited over an Apple Watch 6? Obviously that's going to depend on the feature set, but do you think that we will see a significant enough feature that'll make us all want to upgrade?
We might. There was some rumor out there about it having an oxygen sensor, and that was one of the things that's tied to people detecting if they have COVID. So it's temperature and then degree of oxygen in their blood. So they might be able to between that and all of what they've been doing for COVID tracking API. They might launch that, and that might get a certain amount of currency. And although that's not typically what Apple does, but I think to the extent they're making really big headways into health and health management, that might be an interesting idea. So another speculation, which it could be or could not be. That is the question.
Yeah, Mike. What same kind of twist on the question? What do you want to see in an Apple Watch 6?
Yeah, I think at this point, the feature set is pretty rich on the Apple Watch. And I have to imagine that anybody who's looking to get a new Apple Watch is someone who may have the third or maybe the fourth generation, because their watch still, if you have the latest one, well, I don't think you're going to jump in, and you rarely do. And I think Apple has this, it's probably a different strategy for the watch that they know that their main market is people who need to upgrade because they got an older generation. You're always going to get the new adopters regardless. The people are they got to have one because it's the new Apple Watch. I got to have one. But as far as the majority of their sales, I think that they know that they got to target those people who are out of reach, and they may want the features that are in between their generation and the new one that they're going to introduce.
Okay. Mark, hold that thought, because we have someone else joining us.
Okay.
And now the show is going to get really exciting. I'm pleased to welcome Fight Camp as the newest sponsor of Mac Voices. Looking for a fun way to motivate yourself and the whole family and get fit in the process? Fight Camp gives you a full body workout while developing hand-eye coordination, and you don't even have to leave the house or pay for those expensive gym memberships. Fight Camp workouts are taught by real boxers and are designed for all skill levels, from first-time boxers to seasoned fighters. Their punch tracking sensor lets you track your progress and compare it with your family and friends. They even have a Facebook community of over 4,000 members to help you share your Fight Camp experience and challenges to up your motivation. New to boxing? Fight Camp has a 12-week starter program that teaches the fundamentals and delivers a great workout. And Fight Camp is great for kids. They even offer kids gloves so that no one gets hurt, but lets everyone in on the fun, something that's hard to do with exercises like weight machines or cycling. And the workouts aren't going to take up all your time either. They're structured like traditional boxing rounds, 3 minutes of boxing and exercise, and 1 minute of rest. Fight Camp offers flexible financing for as low as 0% APR, and right now, as a limited time offer, you can try Fight Camp for 30 days with their money-back guarantee. Just go to joinfightcamp.com/voices. That's right, try Fight Camp for 30 days, and if you don't love it, they'll refund your money. Train like a fighter and turn your sweat into results. To try Fight Camp for 30 days, just go to joinfightcamp.com/voices. Joinfightcamp/voices. Thanks, and welcome to Fight Camp as a sponsor of Mac Voices. Today's edition of Mac Voices is supported by Linode. You can build it on Linode. When it comes to websites, you have lots of choices, and there are lots of things to consider. But when making your decision, you should be sure to look at Linode, because they check off all the boxes. Easy to set up, one-click installs for things like WordPress, Minecraft servers, and VPNs? Check. Fast SSD servers to make your website super responsive? Check. Industry-leading processors to, again, make your website super responsive? Check. Data centers around the world so that your website can be where you want it to be? 10 of them, in fact. Check. An easy-to-use cloud-based interface for managing your site? Check. Tools to make deploying and maintaining, provisioning, securing, monitoring, and backing up your infrastructure simple? Check. In fact, pretty much anything you have on your list of server wants and needs can be satisfied by Linode. And it gets better. Visit linode.com/macvoices and get $20 off your first order. linode.com/macvoices to save $20 on your first order. Check them out and get your server up and running today. linode.com/macvoices. Thanks to Linode for their support of Mac Voices.
Put that guy on the spot. Or girl.
Oh, he or she, yeah.
I'm not telling. I'm just waiting for her to show up.
It's
Hello.
Kelly, come on!
Hey, guys.
Hey, Kelly, good to
Howdy.
have you. We're just speculating endlessly on what Apple's going to announce and what it means.
Okay, well, I'll ask a question, and maybe since Kelly just joined us, let her go first. I guess the question I'm going to pose is: do people believe is there an Apple upgrade super cycle for phone and for 5G? And do we believe it? Is it for real this time? Instead of hopeful and fizzled for I don't know the past 2 or 3 years. Is it for real this time? A super cycle of upgrades?
You mean we're not going to get a phone this year?
We're going to get a phone, but I think in the past, everyone was predicting, we're going to have lots of people upgrade their really old phones, and we're going to see sales through the roof, and it really hasn't materialized quite that way.
I wouldn't go that far. I
Yeah,
think
there's all
I
a
think
few
a
phones.
lot of people bought the SE. A lot of people with the H in the middle. Lahad. I don't know exactly how many that is, but it's a whole bunch of people because they all got the SE. And I think, I don't know that super cycle is necessarily the thing, but I think what's going to come with this one, I think 5G will come with this one in some fashion.
Certainly, yeah.
There's a lot of rumblings about like it's only going to be the Pro that's going to have 5G and none of the other ones or something. I'm not sure how I feel about that one yet, but I definitely think this is going to be a phone a lot of people are going to want, if for no other reason than like I've had my 11 Pro since 0 day, and that's been, we're coming up on a year now, and I still cannot get over the camera on that phone. Still. Like every time I take a picture and it's not unbelievably bright where I'm taking my photo and it just works itself out and gives me a photo, like I still can't believe it. Like I take at nighttime, out in my backyard or whatever, and I still get great photos and I still really, really like it. I think so. I think, the camera upgrade every year is continuing to be significant. I think we're just now stepping out from under the thinnest, lightest iPhone ever edict. So maybe the next one will be a little bit thicker and a little bit heavier and have a little bit more battery in it. And that'll be a thing that people will be excited about. Like there's not a lot of, I can't think of a fundamental feature that we don't have on iOS in some fashion that doesn't require an additional hardware accessory or an additional piece of software that Apple could give us that would make everybody stampede off to go get a new phone. I think we're just at a point where the platform is mature enough. I mean, this thing I'm supposed to use to take phone calls, like that is so not anywhere near, like it's one of those slivers on a pie chart. It's one of those slivers that's so small that you have to draw the little arrow to it and show it because there's not room in the wedge to say phone calls.
Mhm.
So I think like everything else I do with it. So, if they're going to give me expanded health kit stuff, for example, like the hardware ability to securely communicate with a glucose monitor or a blood pressure monitor or an oximeter, a pulse oximeter or whatever that's called.
That will
kind
come
of
in the
stuff.
phone. That's coming in the watch. We talked about that briefly before you joined.
Well,
The speculation, but it's coming in the watch.
but
as well as
recording that data and harvesting it, I think is opening that up to somebody like Withings to make an oximeter, a pulse oximeter, along with the blood pressure monitor and the scale and stuff that they already do, things like that. And expanding Health Kit from a hardware perspective to make that stuff encrypted, make it safe, make it all resident on device so that other people can't get at it, et cetera, et cetera. I think that would be very, very appealing, but I just can't figure out what else they could give us that would go. And this is just going to come back and bite me later. I know, because I just haven't thought of it yet. They're going to show it to me and I'm going to go, okay, I was wrong. I really wanted that. I'm sorry. But I don't like, I think it's also just part of the rising cost of those phones. I got an 8 because I could not pay $4-digit dollars. I couldn't pay a 4-digit price tag for a phone when the 10 came out. So I'm going to have this phone for a while. So whatever they give us with the 12, I'm still just going to be like, that's awesome. I can't have one. So I was never an every year person anyway. So because I got the 11, the 12 was never for me, but I have to look forward to like the 14 before it gets to the point where, I'm eligible for something again, so to speak, because like, I've been a 2-year upgrader for ages. So I just can't, I want it to be 5G, and that would be really cool, on a fundamental level. Cause like the first iPhone I got was the 3G. I didn't get in on the first one. And part of that was because everyone I knew who had one was like, don't do this. Wait till you can get a 3G one because this is terrible. This is a terrible user experience.
Yeah, I want to take a shot at Mark's super cycle question, but Kelly, before I do, I want to ask you, were you watching the show before you came on?
No, it's just magical that I got the red shirt email that everyone else got.
That's what I was wondering, if you changed shirts just to come on the show or not.
No.
Red.
No.
Red is the color of the day. Mark, the super cycle thing is really interesting. And I think in conjunction with what Kelly said, I think there's so many phones out there now, and I'd love to see the breakdown of them. But I think it's going to be like, waves breaking on the shore, that there's so many waves coming in, and it's just, there's going to be a time that, okay, it's my time to upgrade. Yes, there are going to be those A, early adopters, and B, those folks who are looking for a particular feature, and that will be a decision breaker, a decision maker or decision breaker, that, okay, that's the killer feature this year, and either I can't live without it, or yeah, I can wait and see what the next killer feature is. So I'm not sure the super cycle thing really holds water. I just think that it's going to be this regular thing as we go.
I agree. The reason I ask is, listening to Ken Ray's Mac OS Ken, he frequently talks about different analysts that have belief in the super cycle, and I think that we have not seen it in the past. I don't think this year is any different. Let alone, I think at this point, unless Congress and the president get their act together and send out more economic stimulus checks, I think people have probably, it seems to me, have blown their money on upgrading on Apple equipment. And I agree. I think people upgrade when they feel the time is right. And I think that by and far, I think 5G has been overhyped. In theory, it can deliver very fast speeds, but over this past weekend or middle to end of last week, I was seeing some reports just testing 5G speeds in different markets around the U.S., and it's maybe 10, 15% faster, than 4G LTE. So in terms of life-changing experiences, it's not there yet. So I just think that people upgrade whenever they think it's right. And I have an older phone. I've been tempted by the camera, but with COVID, we're not traveling anywhere, so there's no reason to do anything except wait and see what great new good stuff comes out, and maybe that's compelling enough to go and buy. And if not, maybe we wait till another cycle.
I think there's two reasons for that. Like, first of all, yes, you should absolutely be tempted by the camera. Not to enable you at all, Mark, but for real. Because I'm sad I haven't got to do my little Disneyland test with my camera, where I like to go on the low light rides and not take a photo with flash. And I have those all the way back, through all my phones of like, look how much better it got here. Look how much better it got here. Look how much better it got here. So because I don't go a lot of places, 5G is not going to be that big a deal. If they're until it comes to my neighborhood, I don't care, because I'm basically going to be on Wi-Fi all the time anyway, because, going places, remember that. So, but the other thing is that I think it's a matter of the scale of the iPhone market, right? So many people have them. I know it's not majority, and I know that Apple likes to point that out at every convenient opportunity, but the fact remains, so many people have them that right now, if 25% of iPhone users upgrade, that's millions and millions and millions of phones. So, in the olden days, when somebody was going from a 4 to, when half the people who had a 4 got a 4S or got a 5S, that was like a massive, that was a massive number relatively. And now, even 25% of people, that's still truckloads and truckloads of phones. So, even if it's not, I think the super cycle thing is one of these things that comes out of analysts who are also the same people who go, well, shucky darns, at the end of this quarter, Apple announced their earnings and they only made almost all the money, not all of it. How can they possibly survive? Those are the people I think are trying to put forth this theory, because it's just the math doesn't check out. When people are like, oh, only Apple sold 100 million phones this weekend, right? 100 million of anything is a massive success if you're measuring by any yardstick that doesn't have Apple behind it. So I think that's part of the reason the super cycle thing doesn't hold a lot of water with me, is because if everybody with an iPhone 7 goes and upgrades, that's still loads and loads and loads and loads of people. That's more people than's going to buy whatever the new Samsung thing is that just came out, or are going to buy a new Nintendo Switch or the new Xbox that just got announced. That's still that market is this big progress bar, and everything else is down here, in little slivers. So,
and the other thing too, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that, and this is not disparaging what I'm about to anyone the way but John Q. Public, I'm not sure really appreciates or understands what 5G is going to be. I mean, the carriers are out there. 5G is going to be wonderful. 5G is going to be fast. You're going to be able to do this. And I'm not sure they're paying any attention to that any more than they pay any attention to any of the other crazy claims. We all do because we're a bunch of geeks, and we're anxious to see what it can do and to run those speed tests and see how fast we can download things. But until it gets out there and people start saying, hey, I got this new phone and holy cow, is this fast? And then some of the marketing may take effect. I mean, Mike, do you see this the 5G thing as a non-geek selling point at this time?
I really don't. I'm exactly what you said. I think that just the average guy hears something about 5G. They've already heard about LTE and 4G and different versions of that, and so it's like when we used to keep track of megahertz of the speed of our processor. Like that didn't matter to any mom or dad buying a computer. It was just a number that was there, and okay, I'm going to get the one that I can afford in this little slot right here, basically. So is it going to make anybody upgrade just the 5G thing? I think that it'll really depend on whether it's really robust in the area that you're in.
Well, that's the other thing too, is it's not going to be evenly distributed. It's probably going to show up in the urban areas sooner, and then bleed out into rural areas later. So I don't know.
AT&T's been given it. AT&T has put the little 5G thing on my phone for like a year and a half now or something.
Yeah, but that's
so. I know. But I know they're lying. So, like, if I'm John Q. Public and I've been seeing 5G on my phone this whole time, and now Apple comes out with a new phone and they go, it has 5G. Like, so does this one. I think that's part of where AT&T shot themselves in the foot with it because if I'm not paying attention, then as far as I'm concerned, I've had it forever. And so why are you telling me I need a new phone in order to do this?
And you get into this debate. I mean, they were trying to sell the idea that we have 5G, and you forget that, okay, but the phone can't take advantage of it. Even if you had 5G, the phone couldn't take advantage of it, and you didn't have 5G. And so now, I think you've set a lot of people up for big disappointments and confusion.
Yeah,
I think maybe I'll close this by saying on AT&T that 2 years when I abandoned them as a carrier and we moved somewhere else. A couple of weeks later, I got a survey wanting to know about satisfaction and why I left them as a customer. And the survey was all about streaming TV and direct TV. So there's a lot wrong with that company.
That's interesting, Mark. You think that they're not about to give up the communication business, but do you think that that's where their big focus is right now, especially with all the competition from streaming services?
Well, again, remember 2 years ago, that was just after they had acquired CNN, not CNN, Time Warner, and they were losing DirecTV customers. And I'm not sure if this was after the Elliott Group came, the private equity firm came, the hedge fund came after them, or maybe that was a little bit later. So I think at that point they were trying to figure out, our cell phone growth is capped. We're losing DirecTV customers. We acquired this other thing on the promise of their vault. What are the dynamics going on with this? And how can we harvest all these customers? And I guess, they figured out, well, the thing to do is raise prices and all will be well going into the future. And that's AT&T for you.
But now I just want to know who you switched to instead. And, okay, do you like who you have better now as a provider? And if so, then tell us who they are.
I do for some things. It's T-Mobile. It's a lot lower. And at the time we switched, we had much better international coverage. You got free coverage, and you didn't get extorted like you do by either AT&T or Verizon for either data or text or things. So in that regard, it was much better. As far as coverage, yeah, it's about the same. It's a little worse in some areas, but as far as just domestic U.S. phone calling, I wouldn't
Mhm.
say anything one way or the other.
Interesting.
And with them, you get something every Tuesday. They give something away.
Oh
Either Taco Bell, a big box movie rental, big red box movie rental, which I don't know who uses that, or Burger King. So that seems to be the rotation of give away free stuff on Tuesdays.
yeah. All right.
What do you mean? I mean, like a contest or something, or
Oh,
you just
no, they have a thing as a benefit. They have a sort of a T-Mobile Tuesdays, and every Tuesday they give away something free. To they're obviously doing joint marketing with other companies out
Yeah.
there, and so it's interesting once or twice, but a lot of the stuff doesn't matter. And so what can I say? It's just people have short attention spans, and you need constantly something ever new. Don't you? Right, Mike?
Absolutely.
So I need to switch I have a phone plan and a Whopper to go. I like it.
All right. Yeah.
We'll be back with the second part of this Mac Voices Live discussion featuring Mark Fuccio and a panel of experts. Next time, though, we shift gears a bit, add a new participant, and talk about podcast tracking, how podcasts are tracking you, why they are tracking you, and a few things you can do to prevent that if that's something you're not comfortable with. That and a lot more next time on this edition of Mac Voices Live. Until then, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.